All right, we will call this meeting of the Calumet City School District 52 to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Do we have any comments, questions, modifications?
I've got two additions to make to the personnel section of the consent agenda. The first is under new hires. And that is Kyle Rossine, Rossine. Kyle is being recommended as the high school head baseball coach. And under item C, we need to add the name Jason Phipps, or
Phipps.
Phipps, Phipps. And he is a high school assistant football coach who's resigning.
And move that we approve the agenda with the additions in 5B and 5C.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the. Moving on to public comment.
No, we are on item number 4, delegations.
Oh, yes. Jumping ahead here. All right, delegations, Pete.
Thank you. And while this gentleman could not be here, I do have, however, a proclamation from Governor Ferguson to read. State of Washington proclamation, whereas the mission of Washington's public school system is to ensure that all students achieve at high levels and possess the knowledge and skills to be responsible residents of a democratic society, enjoy productive and satisfying lives. And whereas Washington's 295 locally elected school boards and 9 elected educational service district boards are at the core of the public education governance system in our state. Whereas the districts and regions they lead serve more than 1.1 million students, have a combined annual budget of over $16 billion and employ approximately 120,000 people. Whereas school directors play a crucial role in promoting student learning and achievement by creating a vision, establishing policies and budgets, and setting clear standards of accountability for all involved. Whereas school directors are directly accountable to the residents of their districts and regions, serving as a vital link between members of the community and their schools. And whereas school directors and educational service districts provide a passionate voice of advocacy for public schools and welfare of school children. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize school directors as outstanding public servants and champions of public education. Now, therefore, I, Bob Ferguson, Governor of the state of Washington, do hereby proclaim January of 2026 as School Board Recognition Month in Washington and encourage all people in the state to join me in this observance. Signed on this 31st day of December, Bob Ferguson, Governor of the state of Washington. That was very nice, and in recognition of our own school board, I've got some certificates for you that, as with any good school activity, I encourage you to go home and put on your refrigerator or send to your parents if that applies. But certainly, thank you so much for your service. Quite frankly, this is an extremely small token of appreciation, and if we had the ability to do more, we would, but it truly is an honor to have folks in the community willing to serve as school board members at a time when public education is not held in as high public esteem as it once was, but you are all doing a magnificent job to try and reestablish that. So thank you for your time and your service very much.
Thank you for that.
And that's all I have for delegations.
Moving on to the proposed consent agenda. Any comments, questions? All right. I will entertain the motion as revised with the additions.
Make a motion that we approve the proposed consent agenda with the additions in 5B and 5C.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great, moving on to public comment. Do have one electronic. I will read. Do we have anybody else? Should we do electronic or?
We can do public first.
Okay, so let me read this real quick and then you can come up and,
Okay.
as I say, the little spiel. So the board welcomes input from the community. Please follow the public comment procedure by stating your name at the podium. When recognized by the chair, each person is allowed 3 minutes to speak. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the board is not allowed to discuss items not on the agenda. The board will direct the superintendent to follow up on any items that arise during public comment as appropriate. The board will not allow complaints against an individual, staff member, or student in open session unless that individual has requested an open public hearing. No student or employee names can be used.
Dan Adamson. My wife actually brought the board agenda up to me, this on Friday. And I noticed that the superintendent contract extension was on there, and she'd actually asked me what my thoughts were. I've had the privilege of working for this district for 10 years, so, you know what, so I thought about it, and I was thinking about, do I come down here, do I not? And all I just kept coming up with is why. So I'm like, why not? My question is, why is this on the docket at this time? We've got a brand new board, everybody's settling in. Can we give an honest opinion on the job that's getting done? I know this is standard practice across the state of Washington that all these superintendents get contracts. Nobody else does it that works for a school district. I don't think the superintendent should be any different. Why always keeps coming up? Why have we not solved the student drop off? Why do we have all the schools and if this has been addressed, I will stand up here and apologize and stand corrected. We've got old schools. Why don't we have a long-term plan? We've got grounds are a mess. Transportation looks like it's a drop off for Hobby Lobby. Where did the district's reserve go? What do we got to show for it? Why don't we have bus drivers? Why aren't we doing sports? The easy answer is the public didn't vote for that. Why are they not voting for that? As a taxpayer, why should I support that? I've got potentially, hopefully some grandkids to grow up in this district. Why should I be excited to bring them to Kyvan School District? why can't we step up and be different and say, you know what? We're not gonna be like every other district. Job performance is based on performance, exactly, and if not, why not show them the door? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan. Is there any other comments? Public comment? Okay, I will read our electronic. This is from Heidi Rogers. My name is Heidi Rogers. I am writing to urge the board not to renew Superintendent Peterson's contract. Under his leadership, the district has failed multiple levy attempts. Repeated levy failures are not simply unfortunate outcomes. They are a clear indication that district leadership has been unable to earn the confidence of voters or effectively communicate the district's needs to the community. The community has consistently shared concerns and called for stronger, more effective leadership. Yet the same results continue and the students suffer as a result. At the same time, the district's financial condition has worsened. Ongoing budget shortfalls, financial instability, and uncertainty about long-term sustainability raise serious concerns about fiscal oversight and planning. These issues did not arise overnight and cannot be separated from leadership decisions and priorities. There is also a growing lack of trust and respect for the superintendent among both staff and the broader community. Leadership without trust undermines morale, accountability, and progress, ultimately impacting students and overall health of the district. Pattern is clear: repeated levy failures, continued financial distress, and loss of community and staff confidence. Renewing this contract would signal acceptance of these outcomes. For these reasons, I believe it is the best interest to seek new leadership that can rebuild trust, demonstrate fiscal responsibility, and successfully engage the community in supporting our schools. Kids of Ivy deserve better. Thank you for your time. Heidi Rogers. All right, that is all we have for public comment. So we will be moving on to item 7, unfinished business. Item A, financial update. John Hassel.
So just kind of give you an update based on where we are. We're working on updating the year-end reports. Basically making sure that our financial database matches the numbers that the county has. It's going a little bit slower just because I'm new to Washington and small districts. But with that said, Mona and Drew over at the ESD, and it was also here before, have been helping me out a lot lately, and we'll be doing so again this week, so that we can get those to match. I don't think there's any issues as far as anything missing. I think it's clearly just either transactions that have not been recorded or recorded incorrectly. Again, that could just go back to the fact that I'm new to the role and may have missed things. That's why they're helping me. In addition, with the financial items that are going on, we will be starting meetings with the Benton County Treasurer's Office starting on Thursday, the 29th. And their treasurer will be here at the next board meeting to speak to the board. In addition to that, we're working with the ESD on our finances to make sure that everything we are doing is going forward is clean, concise, and making sure that we're being best stewards of finances for the district.
Any questions?
Last time we talked, or Pete talked about, that was, around school grounds or school property types of stuff.
Mhm.
Is that included in the conversation with the Benton County Treasurer? Does that go with the superintendent, or how would that, all depends on where we fall in the.
No, I think any discussion about any liquidation of assets would be at the board level, and it would be in response to recommendations that would come from either the ESD or the state level. At this point in time, the only question that I have is simply, what are some of our assets worth, market value wise? And if the board is going to be asked to make future decisions regarding these assets, we need to know what they're worth. And that's not a quick process, because I don't want it to be I don't want someone doing an internet search and basing their real estate valuation simply on what they find on Google. So it's gonna take a month, possibly a month and a half to get an actual person to give us a good detailed report, and give the board a sound footing on steps to potentially move forward if that's the board's decision.
All right, moving on to unfinished business item B, facility use update.
So for facilities, Pete Reed, Rosario and I got together to basically review route classifications for facility rentals in districts near Benton City. We looked at Prosser, the Tri-Cities, and a couple of different ones. There's some inconsistency across the districts in which they classify as nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, commercial, et cetera. So those are some of the things that we need to, look at what other districts in our area are classifying them as, and also what we should be classifying them as, based on our unique community. As far as charges, they're fairly consistent all across the board. So I think what we will do is look at these costs as they are outside of our district now. Compare those with what we are charging and making sure that, we stay consistent with the area. But again, taking into account our demographics in our community. One of the things that, we really got to make sure that we are covering is the cost of custodial, electric, diesel, maintenance, wear and tear, all those things. We want to make sure that our facilities are available for the community, but at the same time, the district can't be losing money at a very rapid rate for entities that are using our facilities that maybe should be paying for these costs rather than paying the $1 fee because they're actually part of the community. So it's just some things that we're starting to analyze now. We will continue to do so, like I said, to make sure that our facilities use, our custodial costs, all those costs are being covered appropriately so that we are not eating those costs that we should be.
How much money do we generate, or how much revenue is generated annually from facility rental,
Strictly from rental,
or from, and through the whole process, roughly?
yeah, I think a slim and none would be somewhere in my estimation, because very rarely do we have facilities use that is not predominantly for Coyote Event City students or what are considered community events. I think our biggest consideration that we had to look at internally before we even brought this forward at the last board meeting were discrepancies between what were truly community service agencies. And I would use an example of an annual meeting that the Benton REA has had out in our high school. And what that is a community outreach effort by the electric company to come out and get a good impression of potential rate increases. And they go around to locales within the county to find out what the public thinks about potential rate increases. That truly is an event for the betterment and information for the betterment of the county as a whole. On the other side of that spectrum, though, is we have some agencies who are utilizing our facilities at our local rate, so that would mean $1, who are then charging entrance fees. And I do not believe that the philosophy of allowing public use and public community service use of our facilities includes charging admission to get into those public events, especially when the dollars that are being used are then not being used to reimburse the district for costs of electricity, custodial, things like that, under the guise of us doing a community service, which I completely agree with and foresee us continuing. It really does, though, get us into a predicament when we're losing money on one end and people are being charged entrance fees on the other side, because those really aren't truly community service events. Those are sort of for profits. So we need a better delineation between those types of activities. One that the board will be able to sign off on with full confidence that that we're not being taken advantage of simply because of the primary users, residents being located within the district. So realistically, I think that our current rates may not change significantly, our rates for rental use. Simply the allowance of what constitutes a community service group versus a non-public service might change.
So by rates, do you mean the dollar or configuring a rate that is at least to cover the minimum cost?
So realistically, if we were to charge our current rates for rentals, I think we wouldn't be that far off. We're still lower than the Prosser and the Richland School District by a goodly portion. They also have non-negotiable rates for those services, the custodial and things like that. Where we have historically run into problems is when we say that, X group is available to meet at the $1 rental rate. And then we waive the fee for associated costs that are incurred regardless. When someone wants to use our football field and we turn the lights on, just turning the lights on is a significant cost. That we have not in the past been cut and dried about making sure that we're getting payment for it. I think those days are gone. We need to create a system where we're not penalizing whatsoever for our community service events, but taking into account that we cannot simply, if something was free or cost neutral, I would have zero issue. The problem is the majority of the events that are taking place are not even cost neutral. They're costing us money. So I would be, if it was over $1,000 that we accrued over the course of a year in actual fees, I'd be shocked. I don't think it's that high.
Any other questions? Pete?
Absolutely.
Moving on to item 8, new business, a superintendent contract extension approval. Has everybody had a chance to review that?
Yeah, my recommendation, open for discussion is Dan's not here. And there's only 60% of the district represented tonight to begin with. And, Danielle and I are new, and I only speak for myself, that it just doesn't, to me, it seems like the discussion and the business side of it should be deferred at least till the next meeting, is what my recommendation would be. So we could, I read the letter, questions I have is, because I am new. Is, why now do we have to make that decision when we're extending out to 2029? So, what's the significance of this month versus moving it forward or taking a chance, but especially that we just barely have a quorum.
Pete, can you elaborate or clarify that if it is not on the agenda, it's an automatic renewal at a certain date?
So as of right this minute, I have 2 more years that I'm under contract with the district through the 27-28. That is not, that was what was done in previous years. So basically the rule of thumb is that if the district were to determine that they wanted to extend me because by state law, you can hire a superintendent for no more than 3 years. The February date that is in my contract basically says that if the board chooses to extend or make a notice of non-extension, it needs to come before February 1st. In which case, if it does not happen, then my contract will be automatically extended for that 1 year. So basically, where the board is at tonight, short of calling a second meeting, which is entirely up to the board, you can make a determination to not renew my contract for the 3rd year, which would then preclude a second conversation during our next meeting, at which point the board can make a different decision and decide to move forward with that. By not taking any action whatsoever, my contract will automatically extend as of February 1st. And the reasoning behind the February date that's fairly common is just to give notice early enough into a timeline were there to be any changes that it would behoove both the district and the superintendent in question to be able to make proper adjustments moving forward. With this particular case, though, of course, I'm still under contract for 2 more years. So it's a little bit different.
So if I'm clear for what I'm hearing is if the board decided a non-extension prior to February 1st, that doesn't preclude later extending.
Correct.
Okay. So.
I just wanna say, I'm in the same mindset. Right, as being a new member, of board and. Reading some things for the first time, et cetera, I'm in the same mindset, we don't, you know, like you said, we barely have a quorum. And one of our members isn't here, so, I. Am very similar thought process to. You,
To hold off on
Yes.
signing an extension. Until we, to maybe to the next meeting, push to have further discussion, and Dan can be here
Correct.
as well.
But from what I hear from Pete is the motion would have to be that there's a non-extension. Because we're not gonna have another meeting before February 1st, right?
Correct.
We'd have to have
Correct.
a motion for non-extension and carry that. Correct.
And that is correct. We would, if we were to not approve the extension, we would. Motion for a non-extension.
I think the only other option that would be available to the board would be an agreement between myself and the board chair, which you would vote on right now, and we would then write up would be that the board and myself agree to an extension of the discussion past the February 1st deadline with no action to take place until the 4th member of the board, because remember, we won't have 5. If we could have 5 by the end of February, I'd be impressed, but we won't have a 5th member of the board in the time that you're looking at, so it would be, which I would be willing to get that written up and available for signature if that's what the board wanted to do as well.
Does that sound like something that we would want to do, so it gives the discussion a little bit more time?
Yeah, I mean, I just think today's too early, so.
Does that work, Pete?
No, that's fine. If what I would do is simply I would simply, I'm going over Robert's Rules of Order in my head here. Go ahead and remove item A from new business. And it will be tabled.
So we will. Have a motion to remove item A8 superintendent contract extension. To the next meeting or the meeting that we have all members available. We're just tabling it, okay.
We're going to table the contract extension under new business item A. And quite frankly, it really depends on, I mean, I think you, correct me if I'm wrong, Danielle, you're gonna be available via Zoom
Yes,
on the 9th.
yes,
What I don't wanna see happen is, we set a date and then have another. Mr. Rapp would have been here tonight, for instance, but had a family medical issue come up that he couldn't be here. So my only hesitation for actually putting a date down would be if something like that were to happen either again for Mr. Rapp or anyone, even including myself, so.
Could we put something in there, table, but to be completed by the end of February?
I don't have a problem with that.
We can, basically, we can table it and we can push it to the next meeting. Or readdress it at that time.
Right, and what I will do is, and as a part of. The next consent agenda, I'll have an extension of the deadline. That the board can approve in that consent agenda. Knowing that you've tabled that for right now.
So do we need a motion or is that just part of it?
No, I think all that we would need to do is have a motion to table. Item A until such time as the fourth member of the board is present.
Okay.
To be no later than. Yeah, I guess it would be the February 23rd meeting.
I would like to move that we table item 8A superintendent contract extension approval until the end of February and or a time when all 4 board members can be present to discuss.
I'll second that.
Right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So tabled.
Okay, so we are moving on to 8 new business, the Stellar Virtual Academy.
Yes, so if you take a look at the handout I provided. We have been approached by Stellar Virtual Academy to enter into a partnership. Which, as you all are aware, there are online options for kids. Throughout the state of Washington, across the nation, quite frankly. Stellar Virtual is a firm that is located in Texas, but is currently approved through the state of Washington to provide online services through OSPI if a district chooses to create a partnership with them. And Stellar Virtual has come to Benton City and made initial proposal to enter into a partnership for a 9 through 12 high school program in partnership with KIB. And this would augment they have a K-8 program currently that they are contracting with Kittitas School District just outside Ellensburg, but they are only K-8. And so they have been looking for a partner within the secondary realm and approached Benton City under quite frankly, it was the recommendation of the current interim superintendent in Kittitas, Mr. Tim Frano, who was formerly an assistant superintendent in Richland School District, who felt like, based on his interactions and their work as K-8, that this would be a better match for a district of our size, as opposed to going into a big districts, many of whom already have an online program. Our current online program is strictly for credit retrieval by our own students, meaning kids show up to school. There are students who may have to have made up credits in another area, having failed a class, so they go out to the portable out at the high school. They are physically enrolled, physically there in the class. They get online and recover the credit for the class that they're missing. Where Stellar Virtual steps in is they're trying to recover students who are currently not physically in Benton City schools. This would be students who are homeschooled, students who are involved in semi-professional athletics. Believe it or not, we have one of those right now, who's a hockey player who accesses online through a different provider, but their home address is here. So this is simply an opportunity for the district to come into a partnership with a provider of those services. The students would be registered into Benton City schools, and the company Stellar Virtual would sign a contract with us, which would financially reimburse the district at a fixed rate until such time that they become able to generate their own revenue, and which point we would then work into a percentage cost with them for providing those services. It is not meant as a service for our current students to then move over to online. We already have that. This is really a program that is meant to try to recover students who are not engaged in public schools right now. And this would be a statewide effort, meaning a student in Spokane, a student in Vancouver who is not engaged could, for all intents and purposes, become a Coyote Benton City student enrolled in Stellar Virtual Academy, earning credits that would then grant them, for all intents and purposes, a Kybe High School diploma, because their curriculum is the same with the same OSPI approval as our own. So what I'm asking for, and you've got some information in front of you, is simply an approval to begin those discussions and negotiate terms, so that I might bring it back to the board, because it doesn't do us any good not to have the terms of a contract in place before asking you to make a decision. So this is not a binding yes or no. This is simply looking for the board's okay to go ahead and have those conversations and bring it back to the board, most likely at the February 9th meeting.
So students have to be Washington State residents?
Washington State resident, yes.
Or I know you said this approved by the OSBI. Are there any, I see on my page, here, page 30. Where there's not like under the next steps, work with Stellar staff to provide required information for OSPI. Are there any concerns at that? It went smooth with Kittitas and.
The nice part about dealing with a company like this that is already established in the state is they've already set up the parameters for their work with OSBI. It's kind of like having a pilot program, and then a year later going for it, because they've already figured out all the ins and outs of working with OSPI as a funding source. The main relevance to me that I'm the most concerned about was taken care of. If you look on the approved curriculum website of OSPI on that side, they're completely 100% approved. So any credits earned by a student in this program would be exactly the same as a credit earned within our own buildings.
Is there any concern, or do we get an exclusivity agreement with them to be the only K or 9 through 12 in Washington?
We would get an exclusivity from these folks, meaning no one with Stellar is going to go over to Findlay, for instance, a month later and ask to do the same thing. There are other servers, there are other online providers in the state. I think the thing that's really differentiating Stellar, because I've had experience with online programs for as long as I've been in secondary education, better part of 20+ years. These folks do not, for lack of a better term, they don't farm out the hard stuff to the districts to do on their own. There are many online providers, for instance, that will not take students on IEPs or not take students who are limited English, because those require a higher level of resource on the part of their online program to be able to serve them correctly. In many cases, those online providers, for instance, if you're a student with a learning disability, they would rely on the district to do the testing, to do the IEPs themselves, things like that. They are actually qualified to do that, and they have the staff to be able to do that. That is a big deal from our standpoint, because it means that students, regardless of their individual need, will have this as an option. There are online providers that will tell you up front they do not do services for students with learning disabilities or bilingual students, that those students are best served in their boundary school. That's what stuck out to me immediately, and would be, in my opinion, putting them a step ahead of many of the other providers.
Okay, two things, I have two questions.
Yeah.
So first, and they go hand in hand. First of all, what I'm hearing you say is, A, it's not going to add workload to our current teachers from their current students in their classrooms, and B, it's not going to take away the students from their current classroom.
Correct.
Is that what I mean?
Yes.
Cause I don't want our students that are in person to go to this other situation and we lose amazing staff and amazing teachers. And I also don't want our teachers overworked, so I just wanna
Yeah.
make sure that that was the case, and that's what I was hearing.
Yeah, quite frankly, the only person that would gain any higher job responsibilities in this endeavor would be me. Because I would be the liaison between the district and Stellar, as well as the liaison between Stellar and OSPI for the purposes of enrollment and doing that work to get these kids in. Our principals and teachers would probably not know they existed. The example that I would use, that they used when I met with them, I believe it's El Paso School District in Texas, right? Gotta get my states right. They have a program in El Paso, which is a significantly large school system. And in their entire school system, they only have 5 kids who are in the El Paso school district boundary who attend this program in Texas. It is not something that I would anticipate having any of our own currently enrolled kids, except for our one hockey player, he might. But this would actually be a program better designed than the one we're currently serving him with for him to be able to do that. But no, will not impact our teachers, will not impact the district's FTE reporting to the state, or our administrative staff.
They do all the marketing.
Yes.
How do they get 9 through 12 student names? Does that come from?
Well, the interesting thing about that, quite frankly, is, and this is kind of one of those things that not everyone is aware of, but as a student who is disengaged, or as a student who is a homeschool student, for instance, if I know that students are homeschool students, we can't contact those kids as a representative of public school, because that is seen as, we cannot be seen. This is true of any public school in the state of Washington. If you're a designated homeschool student, your boundary school does not contact you to try and either give you services or try and get you in. Now, if you're that parent, you can look for those services in your boundary school, but you don't have to. But as a private entity, which this program is, they can. So they can enter into the public relations realm and the marketing realm with the homeschool side of things that we simply don't have access to legally, or quite frankly, we don't know who they are. They can go to the homeschool networks, they can go to some of those specialized programs and make their pitch all they want to.
So basically, it's a private entity piggybacking off a public entity with low impact to us with high gain.
Correct.
And so basically you would further the discussions approved by the board to continue trying to iron out potential.
What I would foresee is in the next 2 weeks, being able to negotiate terms of a contract and present a contract to the board for either approval or not to move forward with it. If in my conversations with Superintendent Prano at Kittitas, he was very positive about the impacts that it's going to have for Kittitas School District. And I've also asked our financial people at the ESD to be in contact with financial people at Kittitas and ESD 105, just to make sure that there's no hidden costs or anything like that. To this point, we've heard nothing but glowing reports.
And all the revenue goes into the general fund?
Correct.
I make a motion that we authorize Mr. Peterson to explore the viability of partnering with Stellar Virtual Academy for the virtual schooling.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
I,
Thank you.
Pretty. We are moving on to item 9, board comments.
I had a parent approach me this weekend at the Sportsman's Show, asking if, Calumet would ever be interested in a trap shooting club. Which I know some school districts or a lot of school districts run it through the FFA program. So told him I'd ask, and sure there would be plenty of volunteers to help with that piece of it too, but so if we could investigate that or ask the question, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. I can work with Micah as FFA advisor here at the high school, and probably would behoove us to make a quick phone call to our insurance company and make sure there's nothing that we're missing there. But yeah, we can begin some conversations around that. Absolutely. Thank you.
I don't either tonight, so we are going to move on to item 10, superintendent's report.
Thank you. It is. Okay, legislative session is underway, and not sure because I don't necessarily always get the same emails from WASDA that you all do, but I would keep a good eye on your emails as bills are coming up and being reported. The superintendents in the state are getting regular updates and being encouraged to use the electronic process to support or not show support for various pieces of legislation as they come through. Last week, I was able to jump online and put forward some written testimony in favor of continuing to expand the funding of the MSOCs across the state by improving finances through the MSOC. That's something that impacts in a positive way every district in the state. There is an interesting piece of legislation coming through on minimum fund balance. And I'm not sure where that's going to go, but that could have an impact, not just for Calumet Bend City, but virtually any smaller district. They're trying to mandate that small districts carry an 8% minimum reserve. And this board has gone, since I've been here, we've gone from a recommendation of a 5% to raising that to a 6%, which I thought was a very good start. The only problem I have with this particular piece of legislation is I think we're treading on very fine line around local control and mandates. There are districts within our ESD that have anywhere from a 1% reserve to a 35% reserve. And I'm not sure that I relish the idea of OSPI being able to set a floor, because if you're setting a floor at some point, you're probably going to tell me I need to set a maximum in my worldview. But the more that I think decisions like that are left up to our local boards, the better. But you'll be seeing some more information on that, I'm sure. Had a very good meeting with Mr. Prego. We've had some air quality testing done at the elementary school. I've asked him to bring in air quality testing at the middle school, as well as got an update on a service contract that we have for I guess the best term would be varmints, whether that be mice or bugs or anything like that. We have had Sprague Services go through and monitor our middle school and elementary for all of those items. And we're looking at doing another round of water testing as well, simply looking at air quality, water quality, and then whether either any potential mice or bugs would be impacting either one. And at this point, we've gotten good reports back from Sprague Services Air quality has been up to snuff in the elementary, and we're sending some water samples off to test with an independent lab just to make sure we're all on the up and up. And so when we get those results, we'll make sure to include that in Mr. Crago's next maintenance update. And then, as the board is aware, we've talked about closing off during the opening of school hours and the release of school hours, closing off the elementary middle school parking lot, the mushroom area, due to one of our staff members having a very close call. And we've finished all the preparatory work for that. And at this point, unless the board wants to have further discussion, I'm going to put out messages tomorrow that we'll be closing that off for public access for drop off and pick up February 9th. And we will simply close it off at 7:30 in the morning, have it opened back up by 8:30 in the morning, which would mean that a parent coming in to pick up their kids for lunch or a significantly late drop off or anything like that, we have access to that, no problem. But it would eliminate the busiest times of the day from, quite frankly, 2 lanes of traffic going in opposite directions with a parking lot that's only going in one direction, and has been a problem as long as I've been here, and probably a lot longer than that. There was a time when that parking lot was closed up until, I want to say, about 15 years ago, and then it was reopened. But the time has come, the safety of our staff and students is paramount. We need to simply close up during those hours for those reasons. And I've had initial conversations with teacher representation and PSD, and we're in agreement that it's the best for our staff and for our kids to block that off.
It's just in the morning.
Morning and at release. So from 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning, and then probably from 2 o'clock until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's when traffic is the heaviest. Quite frankly, there are right now, as we speak, other easier entrances and better entrances for parents to do the same thing. It's just right off at 225. It's convenient. It's just not that design was put into place when that building was built originally, and at that time there were not 2.3 cars per household that they currently have now. That's for sure. So, at least until we can come up with a more permanent solution, meaning an expansion of that parking area to accommodate better and logical flow of traffic, I think it's best.
Any other comments? I agree as far as, I drove by there the other day and, it's a little bit chaotic. I actually saw, somebody going through, and it's just really risky for employees, staff to be going in and out with traffic going, trying to get out,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
So I think for the safety of staff and students, it's a big.
Yep. You know, we had the one incident with a staff member right before break, and we had a very near miss this past Thursday, I believe it was. We can't take the risk moving forward, both from a liability standpoint as well as just the simple fact. Everybody's in a hurry, and I get it, but it can't be at the cost of one of our people or one of our kids.
Honestly, you bringing it up made me pay attention more and watched
Mhm.
it basically happen.
Yeah.
So I think we just get complacent in our day and don't think about people that are out there helping our kids, and I think that it's a good idea.
Yep. So we'll get that out, and with that, that is the end of my report.
So moving on to item 11, executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110, section 1G, performance of a public employee for 30 minutes with no business to follow. Thank you everybody for coming.
You.